Everyone, this is the latest industry experts on the podcast, and we just have a simple conversation about marketing and their perspective on marketing. Today, we have AJ Wilcox in here. We met at Hero Conference, and we bonded over being ginger beard brothers. I was like, he has a ginger beard, I have a ginger beard, and then we were like, oh, and so basically we're brothers in a past life, somewhere down the lineage. It's very rare to meet a fellow ginger beard. Today we are going to be talking about LinkedIn ads for the B2B marketer. LinkedIn ads are a hot topic because they are so much opportunity for things out there. AJ is going to tell us a little bit about himself, what he does, and then we'll just dive right in. Thank you so much for coming on today, AJ.
Oh, thanks, Victor. I'm so excited to get to share with you guys my nerdy passion. So, okay, a little bit about myself. I've been a marketer for the last 14 years. About 11 years ago, I went to go work for a company that was a B2B SaaS company. And my background was all in SEO and Google ads. And I go and I'm talking to the CMO, my new boss that I really want to impress. On my very first day, I'm laying out all of the strategies that I want to use. And I remember her saying, all that sounds great. Go ahead and execute it. Yeah. But just so you know, we started a pilot with LinkedIn ads 2 weeks ago. See what you can do. And I was like, what do I do? But I jumped into the platform and applied basically all of my knowledge and approaches that I used for Google ads to this new platform. And about 2 weeks later, one of my sales guys came up to me and said, AJ, we don't know what you're doing, but we are fighting over your leads. Keep it up. And so I went and chased those leads down in the CRM to go see what are these leads he's talking about. Every single one of them was originating from LinkedIn ads, and it was not the only channel I was running. So long story short, I grew that to become LinkedIn's largest spending account in the world because it was performing so well. After that, I ended up jumping off to go start my own agency. And I've been doing that for the last 8 years. The agency is called B2 Linked, and we're an ad agency that literally LinkedIn ads is all we do.
That's amazing. Yeah, just that's amazing. And just kicking it off, when it comes to LinkedIn ads, you did a really good presentation at Hero Conference about the best practices and things like that. Can you for the audience, can you say what is the biggest difference? Because we all know Facebook ads. Almost every business, we know to use Facebook ads. That's at a minimum. And Facebook's been kind of annoying with all their policies and everything else like that. So can you describe what the biggest differences between Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads are?
Yeah, I think the biggest differences are, number one, the targeting. So Facebook, it's not the platform you go to when you've updated your job. We can't even target by job title anymore. I don't think they've given it and taken it away so many times I can't even count. But LinkedIn is the platform where you tell it what company you work for and what your job title is. And so if you're in B2B and you only want your leads to come from people with this job title in this industry at this particular company size, there's no other platform on the planet that can do that. So great targeting, but boy, it comes at a price. The average cost per click that we've seen on Facebook for B2B is $3 to $4 per click. On LinkedIn, it's 8 to 13 on average.
Wow.
Yeah. So we pay for those higher quality leads for sure.
So I don't really understand why LinkedIn does that. You would think that they would do, I don't know why they have the floor system, meaning that there's a floor, a bottom to it. And I never really understood their philosophy of doing that rather than doing the Facebook method. If the higher engagement, the better performance, everything else. Why do you think LinkedIn really took that approach?
I feel like they shot themselves in the foot because they wanted quality. They saw Facebook, who took a lot of flack for having the belly fat ads that made the platform feel like it was low quality. And they said, we never want the belly fat ads. And so from the very beginning, they said, no one will ever pay less than $2 per click for traffic from us. And we have gotten clicks for less than $2, but it takes some tricks to get around. But that's where they set the floor. And then when they came out with sponsored content ads, those were text ads, sponsored content, the newsfeed ads, then the floor became variable. And it's anywhere between usually $3.50 to $6. Depending on who your audience is and how competitive they are. The reason why I think they were shooting themselves in the foot for this is, we all know Google ads and Facebook ads because people told us about them, because people went and had success on them and couldn't help but share. And LinkedIn never had that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, Facebook, everyone was getting traffic for a third of a cent, and Google, they were getting it for like 5 cents a click at the very beginning. Of course, everyone's going to have success and go tell their friends. LinkedIn, it's like, geez, $2 a click from the very beginning. If I make any mistake, this automatically becomes an expensive mistake. So it's taken them a lot longer to get going. If they would have started the same way with a very like inexpensive, very grassroots type of start, I'm sure that LinkedIn would be a tier 1 platform that every B2B company, every B2B marketer, it's the first thing you learn. But instead, here we are, like every marketer learns Google and Facebook first. So, oh well.
Yes. And as a Facebook marketer, I was setting up a LinkedIn campaign, and the fact that you have to set up a campaign for every specific ad format type, like if you want, for example, if you want a ad with images, like an ad with images, like within Facebook, you can put images, videos, carousels, you can put them all in the same campaign. Super easy. But
super easy.
And within LinkedIn, you have to create a campaign for every ad type. So if you want an image, you have to create an image campaign, a video campaign, a carousel campaign. And it's just like, why? Why? Who designed that to make it where it's on the campaign level and not on the ad level? And it's just like, as a Facebook marketer, it's just like, why would someone do this? Like, I don't know who thought it was a good idea to do that, but it was just like, wow, that was like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I agree with you. And here's who built the platform. It was a lot of Harvard and Stanford educated MBAs. So they're very, very smart people, but they've never advertised a day in their life. And so they've built this platform all off of theory with zero practice. And they've waited for I had a meeting with a VP at LinkedIn back in 2015. And I was sitting across the table from him and he said, hey, what can we do to improve our ad platform? And I was like, we need conversion tracking. And he folded his arms and said, tell me why. Why do you think you need conversion tracking? Like they had apparently already had this discussion internally and decided it didn't need to be on the roadmap. So this is what they do. They wait for a propensity of, or for a gaggle of marketers who are spending big budget with them, demanding something before they consider putting it on the roadmap.
Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy, first of all. So,
and we did get conversion tracking 3 years later. So
oh, wow.
Maybe it worked.
Wow, they really expedited that after 3 years.
Totally. I left that meeting with the intention with the understanding that they were not going to implement it. So it was years later that they probably listened to someone who was more authoritative than me, I guess.
So, question for you. Speaking about ad formats, what do you see on LinkedIn is the best ad format? So I see success with like carousel ads. I see some success there. We know videos aren't exact, like from what we've seen on the organic side, videos don't do as well. But I'd love to get your perspective on what are the best ad types that gets the best conversion? Is it images, videos, carousel? What do you, or maybe other ad formats? Maybe like text based. Like, what are you seeing is the best success right now when it comes to ad formats?
Well, this is so funny because the very best performing ad formats still are the originals.
Really?
So the text ads were the ones that came out in 2008. They're in the right rail. They're only available on desktop, and they have a really, really low click-through rate. Like 0.025% is like the average click-through rate. And so you might be saying, why do you think this is a good ad format? Here's why. It's a lot of free branding. It's 2.5 clicks out of every 10,000 times this ad is shown. And when it does get clicked, it's the cheapest ad format on LinkedIn. So you're paying like $3 to $4 every time it gets clicked, but your brand logo was shown over and over. And so what I like about this, they're very inexpensive, very low risk because they're not going to generate a lot of traffic. But when we run them alongside any other ad, we usually see our click-through rates increase on that other ad format by like 13%. So we know that branding is doing something. Mm-hmm. The next one is the one that we use the most often. It's just your single image ad sponsored content. And it's the simplest to put together. Like if you try to put together a video, you need creative. You try to put together a carousel ad, you need like 4 or 5 different images and links. So single image, it's the easiest for you as a marketer to build. And the costs are usually 20% lower per click than
Wow.
carousel or video. It's just the simplest and happens to still be the highest performing.
Huh? Because it's usually always the opposite. Whatever is the simplest ends up being the most expensive. So that's interesting.
Exactly.
That's interesting. So with all that in mind, on the carousel ads, I see a lot of really smart tactics with carousel ads, like how people use, like, for example, like a line, like a timeline, and they'll like link all the carousel ads together.
Yes.
And show like some really, really impressive tactics there. Is there really any good best practices when it comes to LinkedIn carousel ads?
Basically don't do them.
Okay. So you only do
Here's
single
why.
images.
Yeah, it's the only ad format that you pay multiple you'll pay multiple times for the same user. So
Really?
yeah, if someone sees a carousel ad with 3 panes and they click on all 3 of them because they want to go to those pages, you just paid LinkedIn the cost of 3 clicks for the same user in the same session. Yeah. So
wow.
Basically they're really expensive for the performance that you get. That being said, here's the way around it. When you're using carousel ads, you don't bid by click, you bid by impression. And that way, if the same person takes multiple actions, you're still only paying for that first impression. But that's exactly it. Like, you want to take, for high performance, you want to take what you've seen work really well on Facebook and come and copy it over. I love the idea of a timeline. Images that have been stitched together tend to work really, really well creatively. There's one example I use that was PBS, and they were looking for advertisers and sponsors for the different PBS shows to, have ads running in the commercial breaks. And they had one cool image that was like, as you swipe through, you see Curious George and whatever other cartoons, and they were cartoon faces that really stand out on a platform that's so professional like LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's really smart. What is your balance of, because when people think of LinkedIn, they think of the professional platform, maintaining that professionalism. But what's that balance between standing out and like really going to that personal level, like that Curious George example, because you're like, wow, this is different, this is amazing. But like, what's that balance of maintaining professionalism and that personality of the brand? Like, do you go all personality to really stand unique from everyone else, or do you try, like, what's that balance between professionalism and being personal?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. The answer is I try to go as personal as possible without crossing a line that makes the client uncomfortable.
Yeah,
because they're going to have their own brand guidelines and standards. Some brand might not want profanity in their ads, but if you use profanity, it would really stand out. But it just could ruin their reputation. So, but what we find repeatedly is ads on any network that stand out get higher click-through rates, which bring lower costs. The novelty makes people want to click. They trust you more. It feels more personal. So for all those reasons, you want to stand out. You want to take this very professional, buttoned up kind of platform and design ads that feel very like they came from a person, just without crossing any lines.
And I'm kind of like, and I'm glad you said that, because I'm kind of against the whole professionalism just in general, because when you go over professionalism, that is a filtered version of your personal self. Like we could do this podcast right now in an extremely professional manner, where like we're just sitting here like in our button-up shirts and then we're talking like this, and we become an extremely like filtered version of ourselves. And I really don't like that, because at the end of the day, people connect to people, and when you become this super professional filtered version of yourself, that's not who you are. You're trying not to say anything. You're like, it's just not who you are. And the more personal you become as a person and a brand, the better success you're going to have, because more people are going to connect to you rather than being that filtered version of yourself.
Preach, brother, preach. Yeah. I love it. That's exactly it. And the same thing works organically on LinkedIn. True. In this sea of stock photos and people trying to like pretend to be all professional all the time, someone goes in and shares a personal story about their kid or dropping ice cream on the sidewalk or whatever, and it goes viral. It's because people you don't trust someone who's putting on a very professional face. You trust someone who's being authentic, being themselves. True. And the network it's hungry for it. You see that when you do get authentic and personal, you get rewarded with virality and lots of good performance. When you stick to the super buttoned up suit and tie, no one will click on your ads or your posts or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. So going back to the LinkedIn side of things, with the ad formats and everything else, is there anything that you are seeing right now that a lot of people are doing and shouldn't be doing? Like you're scrolling through your feed, and I'm like, wow, that is bad. Like when you see like ebooks, they're like, when I go through my LinkedIn feed, I am just like ebook, and I like ebooks to a point, but like that is my entire feed is just ebooks. So is that something you recommend? Is that something you don't recommend? Like what are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, what we found, we've tested a lot of different types of lead magnets. Because here's the deal: LinkedIn, it's too expensive to show purely top of funnel, just like brand awareness ads.
Yeah.
I mean, you send someone to a blog post and it costs $8 to $13 for every visitor, and it doesn't convert, like, because blog posts don't really convert all that well, and you're going to stop advertising pretty quick. And if you go to the opposite end of the spectrum, where you're pushing someone right to buy something or right to talk to a sales rep, these are cold audiences who don't already know, like, and trust you. And so again, like, LinkedIn is going to charge you an arm and a leg because none of those people are going to be willing to click on that ad. So you want to be somewhere in between, provide enough value while still asking for some sort of a conversion action.
Yeah.
So if you're saying, well, do we offer an ebook or a webinar or a free masterclass or a 2-page guide or checklist or something like that, what we found repeatedly is it actually doesn't matter what kind of content it is, like the format of it. What matters is the promise of what it's going to solve. So you could have an ebook that tells you how to solve a migraine kind of headache problem, or you can have an ebook that's solving maybe a headache problem, and you wonder why one converts at 40% and one converts at 6%, So I think that's the big one, is just making sure that whatever offer you have, it really solves a pain point. And then if it's an ebook or a webinar or a report, doesn't matter what the format is, you're going to be willing to engage with it because it's going to solve that problem. It said it was going to.
Yeah. And going to like the targeting. So I've heard different strategies, like basically like for the CMOs, if you're targeting CMO, like having ad types that target, like you might have CMO in your ad graphic and things like that. Are there any like ad graphic strategies that you're doing to, like, for example, for all the CMOs, you're having CMO in the ad graphic. For all the marketing managers, you have a marketing manager ad graphic. Do you ever get that granular, or do you kind of keep it more general? I'm just curious on that, like, strategy when it comes to creative.
Yeah, we've done a lot of testing where in the imagery, we'll call out to them. In the ad copy, we'll call out to them. And I would say most of the time, calling out to your audience is a better, like you should see a little bit better of performance, but not always. And sometimes it can be a little bit creepy. People don't realize that, like, how granularly you can target on LinkedIn. But I will say some of the best performance we've ever seen. We had a piece of content that was geared towards CMOs, and it was called like the CMO's Guide to whatever. But we found that when we advertised to directors of marketing and VPs of marketing, we had even higher conversion rates. And that's because it was aspirational. These people, they want to become a CMO at some point. And so they want the guidebook of how do CMOs do this so I can be prepared and how I can be ready.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. So it sounds like it helps to a point, but also at the same time that it's maybe not worth it at the same level, like to get that granular. Is that what it sounds like?
Yeah, it depends on how much time you have to dedicate. Like, all we do all day long is we're in the ads platform. And so we can run really minute tests like that. But if you're running your Facebook and your TikTok and your Google and YouTube, and you're trying to add on to LinkedIn, I don't want to be like, yeah, super micro segment all of your audiences and launch 50 ads. And like, what my recommendations are is usually a Ferrari. And someone needs to say, hey, I only need a Toyota right now. Like, how do I pare this down?
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. That's a great analogy. So curious on if you're trying to promote an event. So I've seen some certain people, it's very difficult to, like, right now, if on a personal LinkedIn profile, that's where all the organic reach is. And you can't boost it from your personal profile.
True.
So curious on when it comes to promoting like a live event and things like that, would you would a good tactic be putting that on your page, on your LinkedIn page, then having that, that like you can click that interest button, the interested button, which will notify you, and then putting that on your LinkedIn page, promoting that, and then that way you can just optimize for that engagement on that interest button. What would be the best, like, what do you think, would you recommend on people trying to do a live event there?
Oh, I like it. Okay. I better not say anything out of turn, because I'm fairly certain that in the future, individuals will be able to set up an event. It doesn't have to come from the company page. I hope that's the case, because you're right. Company pages themselves don't have a whole lot of reach. So if you want that virality, what I would do is exactly what you're mentioning, is you create the event on your company page, and then from your personal profile and the personal profile of your employees and partners and fans, whatever, have them comment on that post. That's the event post. Of course, they'll like it. Like, of course, it costs nothing to like, but a comment is the biggest influencer of whether something goes viral on LinkedIn. If you have something that is eliciting comments, yeah, LinkedIn goes, ooh, there's engagement going on here. There's real conversation. Let's show this to as many people as possible. And so have all the personal profiles dropping comments like, this is so interesting to me because, or can't tell you how excited I am to hear about this subject because I've been wondering. Most people would think to just hit the share button and share, but shares don't perform very well on LinkedIn.
They don't.
Comments do.
That's really fascinating, actually. And I like how it goes to all their audiences and it keeps going from there. The problem with like live events is, like, if you do, like, for example, a text post, I have 10,000 followers. So if I do a text post, I'll get about 5,000 views on average. But if I do like either a video, oh my gosh, I'm not even gonna get into video. Video is like awful. Like every time I post any video, it's always under 500 views, or a live event, it's always under 500 views. Like, I don't know if it's a LinkedIn, like I haven't, now I don't push the, I don't do the commenting thing that you said. I will try that. But like, we don't, like, the reach on those live events when we post them out and videos is just so low that it's like awful. So like, we'd like to boost that to make it where it's a little bit better.
Yeah. One of the things you can try, because I don't believe LinkedIn penalizes any sort of format of a post to not be able to go viral. I think it's just some things people want to comment on and want to engage with, and others they don't. Yeah. For the longest time, people said, oh, link posts that link out, LinkedIn penalizes them and they won't go viral. Well, that's because instead of liking and commenting on the post, which would cause it to go viral, instead they're clicking on the link that you told them to click, and they're leaving LinkedIn, and there wasn't an opportunity for them to come back and show some sort of engagement signal to LinkedIn that this is of value and it should show it around. But as soon as they come out with something new, like poll posts came out, it's probably been 6 months ago.
Oh yeah.
They will give extra juice to them to try it out while it's fresh. So watch everything that new that LinkedIn comes out with. You should see a little bit of a bump, but like, in the case of events are kind of new and videos were kind of new a couple of years ago, and they didn't have the same reach, that they didn't get a bump.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So yeah, like I will definitely try that out. And when it comes down to like that's where the main of the juice is in LinkedIn, is that organic reach. So that way you don't have to pay the huge LinkedIn prices right now for those particular things. That'll be a big plus. Like boosting personal profile, that would be even huger. Being able to boost that would be a huge opportunity for a lot of different things. And I guess that won't come out for the next 2 years. Knowing that it took them 3 years for the conversion event, I won't expect that for a very long time. But, yes.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. They move a little bit slower, but boy, I'm grateful, because I know if I post the same thing on Facebook, like, it's going to get 2 likes and 1 comment, and it's from my mom. But I post the same thing on LinkedIn, and it's being seen by thousands of people. It's the easiest network in the world to go viral on. So because of that reach and the fact that it's reaching really influential people, it's not my mom. Like
you don't want to reach your mom?
I mean, I'll reach her like in the evenings or something and talk to her, but I don't necessarily want her seeing all my work stuff. So.
Oh, that's good. But yeah, you're totally right. And going into like the iOS 14 update, how did that was like a really big Facebook killer. A lot of companies really fell because of that iOS 14 update. What have you seen? How are you pivoting? What are you doing there to kind of counteract that?
Yeah, so the cookies, there were 3 LinkedIn products that rely on the cookie. The first is conversion tracking. And so we know our conversion tracking is taking a hit. Not such a big deal in B2B, because when we drive traffic to a landing page, then from that landing page, we're capturing UTM parameters and sticking them into a CRM. And because of that, we'll have an accurate lead count by looking at the CRM report. So we don't necessarily need it in LinkedIn, but we lose that a little bit. Retargeting is definitely taking a hit. But website retargeting on LinkedIn was never really all that valuable to begin with. It's always been expensive and hasn't had a lot of inventory. So, I mean, I would much rather send traffic from LinkedIn where I know this person is valuable, drop them on my website, and retarget them on Google and Facebook.
Interesting.
Obviously took a little bit of a hit there. So it kind of hurts that strategy. But the third is LinkedIn has a free demographics tool. I've always called it LinkedIn Analytics, kind of like Google Analytics and Facebook Analytics. Mm-hmm. No one knows that this exists, but you go in and set up an ads account. You don't have to spend a dime. You just take the tracking code, what they call the insight tag, put it on your website, and then after at least 300 people get recognized, LinkedIn's now showing you reports across your website for like, who are the people who are interacting with my website? What levels of seniority are they? Where are they located in the world? What job titles are they? What companies do they represent? And they're actually naming the companies themselves, like the companies that tend to frequent your website the most. Mm-hmm. So we're taking big hits out of all 3 of those things because of the iOS update. And then when Chrome gets rid of third-party cookies here in the next year, it'll hurt for sure. But again, the magic of LinkedIn really is in that native targeting. And so we're not going to lose that. Like, the cookie doesn't affect that too much.
Yeah. And you're right. When it comes to B2B marketing, it's a little bit easier just because, like, in e-commerce, you might be working with 100,000 customers, and it's like going to be it's a lot difficult to map because of the scale of what it is. But in a B2B, you can, like, it's a little bit easier since there's like, if you get 5 clients in a month and you spent like $5,000 on LinkedIn and then $1,000 on Facebook, you can do some like weird math, and then you have the UTM parameters in there as well, which also help. But yes, like, it's a little bit easier to track that lifetime journey since there's a lot less people in the B2B space.
So true. In e-commerce, you have an actual purchase that you can tie something to, so you know that something occurred. On B2B, we're going to have a record in a lead form in the CRM, so we have like proof that something happened. For everyone else in between, I mean, all the platforms, like, Facebook was the second one to do this. It is and I know LinkedIn's working on this right now. It's like predicted conversions. We don't know how many conversions happened, but given the amount you've spent, we think you should have 6 leads. And then I go and tell a client, yeah, we got 6 leads, and they look in their CRM and they're like, there's only 2 here. You're a liar. And we end up getting fired. I don't like the predictive analytics there.
Yeah. And I wanted to get your thoughts. So figuring out attribution is getting more difficult. What are you doing to see the kind of the B2B lifetime journey? Because it really does bounce around. Like the person might start out on Facebook, then see their LinkedIn ad, and then go to Google, and then this kind of crazy network. It's not like one line. It's like this crazy stream of things because everyone's using different platforms. What tools are you using to track lifetime journeys and things like that?
basically no tools to track lifetime journeys,
Mhm.
because I'm pretty sure all of those are tied together through cookies. And so like those tools won't even work. I mean, unless they find some other kind of a workaround, which I certainly hope they do. But what I do is I just understand that everyone's journey is going to be different. Like it's going to be more of a web than a line or a funnel.
Yeah.
And so I would say just be present on every network possible. You know, reach your right people on LinkedIn, also reach them on Facebook, also be there on Google when they search, also be there on Google Display Network when they're browsing content about it. If you're ever present, then they're all going to find their way to you eventually. And I mean, maybe there's a strategy you can use on deciding what part of the funnel people are in. Like if they're searching on Google, they're more to the bottom of the funnel. If they're more on social media, maybe they're still in the get to know you phase and you're showing something different. But whatever that is, I just say, I know it's a big ask, but it's like, be on every channel as much as you possibly can.
So you talked about the retargeting being like really broken. What are your thoughts on customer list and then lookalikes? Like our
Okay.
customer list, do they work? Are they good? Are they not? Like, what are your thoughts on customer lists in LinkedIn?
Yeah. So LinkedIn has two different types of list uploads that you can do. One is the contact list that we're used to on every other network. Everyone's got that. But the second one is a company match list where you can literally upload up to LinkedIn a spreadsheet of up to 300,000 company names to target.
Wow.
And so for those of you who are doing account-based marketing where you're targeting by specific companies that maybe you want to do business with, both of those list upload features work great. They're fantastic. You bring your own data and there's high match rates. It's awesome.
Wow.
But lookalikes are a totally different story. I don't even know why LinkedIn created lookalikes, because on Facebook it made sense. Like Facebook's not asking you for all the different aspects of what you do professionally. So lookalikes in a B2B context were great. You upload a list of your customers, create a lookalike off of it, and then run to them. And Facebook's going to find other people who are similar in some regard and may also be your customer. On LinkedIn, we know who the customer is. Like, their job title, what company size, what industry they work in. We don't need lookalikes. Their native targeting is so good and so segmented. The only time I found lookalikes to be useful is really like with an existing customer list. Go find us more of these kind of people, but even still, our native targeting always beats it. So
Really?
no biggie. Yeah.
Wow, because in Facebook, it's almost always the opposite. Like it's like lookalikes are always the top performers,
Yes.
rather than the interest-based targeting. Most of the time, the lookalikes almost always win. So that's really fascinating, actually.
And that is because Facebook has, the last stat I read, I know this is a few years old, but the last stat I heard was like people spend on average 37 minutes per day on Facebook. And so Facebook is getting all of those signals about someone. They've given so much information. They capture all those interactions. It's, the most advanced ad platform on the planet, or the most advanced social media platform. And then you have LinkedIn where people spend an average of 17 minutes per month. And it's like the platform doesn't have the same level of interaction. So they can't categorize people in the same way. So I get it. Facebook has the best data scientists on the planet and they're put to good use. LinkedIn with the best data scientists, they're still dealing with limited data sets.
That's true. That's true. And they don't have like the patterns. Like you don't go to LinkedIn to watch puppy videos and then they're not going to know like, oh, like this person likes puppy videos. They're going to want this product. It's like the LinkedIn won't have that data or doesn't have that advanced of an algorithm to know this person likes puppy videos will also like this product.
Exactly. Yeah. Just it's different purposes for the platforms. Yeah. And it just so happens that LinkedIn's not the platform that people come to for recreation. And we see that slowly changing. Like it's becoming a lot more fun of a platform, but Facebook and YouTube get like the real video views, and LinkedIn, no one's watching video there. I mean, it's increasing, but yeah.
I also like, it's interesting the mindset that like you enter within each of these platforms. Like it's the same person, but you enter these different mindsets. So first of all, just to understand, I don't read. Like I am like horrible at reading. Like if you want me to type things out, like I can't communicate that way through video. If like face-to-face interaction, that is how I communicate. So if you try to get me to type something out or read something, I'm a very bad communicator that way. And I can't, it's very difficult for me to take information that way. So, but what's fascinating is like I'll go on TikTok, and if I see more than 3 words, I'm like, that's too much for me. And like, I have like a 1 second attention span. But when I go on LinkedIn, I realize I'm reading paragraphs. Like I'm reading stories, and just I'm like, wow, I'm reading. Like I'm actually reading. And that's
Look,
like
Ma.
yeah, like what? And that's like something I normally don't do. But within this platform, I entered a whole different mindset, saying like, okay, like I'm reading all this content, and that's what my mindset goes into going into these platforms. So it's fascinating, the different mindset. Like in TikTok, I might read more than 4 words, and then that's too much. But if I see 300 words in a LinkedIn, I'm going to go, "Oh wow, this is an interesting concept." And like I'm actually reading it, and like the mindset you enter in these different platforms is interesting, and you need context to advertise to that. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, and Victor, I think that tells a lot about you,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
what that means is when you go onto a professional platform
Mhm.
and you're hungry to learn more, it's you're so hungry to learn more and find out what's new that you're willing to overcome obstacles that don't come naturally to you. Because I'm the same way. I would much rather take in audio and video and not text. I think it shows the level of ambition and seriousness you have towards your craft, which says a lot. If someone is like, they go to LinkedIn and they're like, well, not interested in what's going on here, chances are they're like kind of checked out of work, and maybe I don't want to hire them.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's the whole thing too. It's just like, it's just normal. Your mind just enters that other stage of like, okay, I'm willing to take in this content in a different way. And like as advertisers, you have to understand that your Facebook ad will not perform the same as it does on LinkedIn, because it's a whole different platform. So knowing that people like to read more, you might be able to say like, okay, maybe we try out this type of ad, rather than a Facebook, which is going to be all video type of platform. And that's why probably your image ads work so well. Because like people tend to read more, and they like, rather than a video ad, it's that text-based ad graphic most likely works better, because people are more likely to keep reading on LinkedIn. That maybe that's why.
100%. Couldn't have said it better myself.
So, is there anything else that you see as a good opportunity right now that people need to be utilizing on LinkedIn that aren't right now, that you're saying, like, oh wow, Victor, like this is like people are doing this and it's just all wrong. They need to be doing A, B, and C. Are you seeing anything out there right now that is a good opportunity that people need to be doing on LinkedIn?
I think the biggest one, like the biggest opportunity, is using the company lists,
Mm-hmm.
because LinkedIn ads are so expensive that there are some companies who can't afford LinkedIn ads. Like, not they can't afford it, that they're not going to see an ROI. You imagine something like a software that costs $100 a month, and the average user stays around for 8 months. So your lifetime value is around $800. Well, with click costs of $8 to $13 per click, acquiring a customer, unless your onboarding is really good, is going to cost you more than $800. So I guess what I'm saying is, I don't end up recommending LinkedIn ads to everyone unless you have a high lifetime value. But you take any B2B company, even if they have a low lifetime value, they guaranteed have a list of companies where if they became their client, they'd be ecstatic. Something like, hey, we want to put their logo on our homepage saying, look at the brands who use our product. And having Sony and IBM and Disney on there would mean everything. And or potential partnerships. So I think the biggest opportunity for everyone is this account-based marketing. Upload the names of each company you want to go after, narrow in on like the departments and the seniorities that those people have, and show ads, even if it's not going to make like a return on its own investment. There can still be bigger opportunities for the company in publicity or partnerships or joint ventures, that kind of thing.
That's really interesting. Yeah. And is there anything else that you wanted to make sure that you communicate of any other, either other opportunities, or anything else in the space that you're seeing that you wanted to make sure that you communicate, like within the just either the B2B marketing world and in general, or just in LinkedIn ads in general? Is there anything else that you would want to communicate or want to like really call out? Either when it comes to recommendations, things that need to be improved, anything you recommend there?
Yeah, the two biggest things we see. Number one is us as marketers having good offers. Like I mentioned, your offer, whatever your lead magnet or whatever it is, it has to solve migraine problems, not headache problems. And so if you as a marketer can do this, you find here's a guide or a webinar or ebook or something that's actually solving a problem, a serious problem for our prospects, it's going to work really well. So do as much research as you need to come up with good offers. And the second one is really for your relationship with the sales team. Because if you're just tossing these leads over from LinkedIn, they're going to have the right titles, but the sales team is going to go, they're low quality and they won't talk to me. Well, if you do the sales enablement kind of role, I've been able to sit down with sales teams and say, here's who we're targeting. This is how we're targeting them. Here are the ads that they're seeing. Here's the landing page or the form that they're seeing. Here's the piece of content that they requested. Now, when they appear in the CRM in your queue, maybe you can think of how better to reach them. So make sure you have a real relationship with your sales team and you're giving them proper expectations for where these leads are, because they are the highest quality leads that sales team will ever get. Make sure they're giving them the right approach.
And they need context, like is the thing. They need context of where they're coming from, where they're interacting with. So if they interacted with that particular ad, you can send that an outreach with that particular way. And if they have context, they're going to be able to market better to that.
Exactly.
And
and they appreciate that context. They don't want to go in cold.
Yeah, that's true. Rather than sending the standard like use us like type of email, it's like, hey, here's how we can help you, and like with that particular ad that they clicked on, and now it becomes more relevant. Like it really does.
Yeah, and you can take more of that consultative approach of like, hey, I saw you just download this guide. What problems are you facing? Like, why did you download this? I'd love to communicate with you and share some of the examples of what we see and maybe how we've seen people solve this problem. And then you become more of like an ally with them rather than just someone who's trying to get in their inbox.
Yeah, true. And like as well, I love how you said to focus on the lead magnet and focus on your offer, because a lot of people will like say, oh, Facebook ads don't work. LinkedIn ads don't work. Like they obviously work. They are showing it in front of people. That means they are working. But like, it's really important to, rather than just doing another garbage ebook or another thing, that it's really to like try to be unique in the category and focus on what is their biggest pain point and then resolving that. So rather than doing another social media 101 ebook, another one of those, it's important to be unique and focusing on the offer that you're and actually providing value, rather than like having, because usually the ebooks are garbage. They're filled in with general brand awareness, customer experience. Like
True.
We all know those things. Stop telling me that. So like, give me some actionable insights, something of value, because then I'm going to share that ebook nonstop. Because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send that to all my marketing buddy friends saying, hey, this is valuable. Look at it. So rather than paying that $5 a click, I just shared it with 4 other potential prospects since it was valuable. So focus on how you can add the most value to the person first, and then focus on getting more eyeballs on it through advertising. And that's so valuable.
Mic drop. You got to find a mic and you got to drop it. That
I
was
don't
fantastic.
have a mic around here. I have a cowboy hat. That's all I got. So here, I'll just say like, boom. That was it.
That's perfect. Yeah, I think that's it. Like your content. What I've seen is if you give me a bad offer, there is no amount of lipstick that I can put on that pig by way of like writing new ad copy and trying new images that can make that pig look attractive. Like it just can't work. But if you give me a great offer, my ad copy can sway performance by 10 to 15%, but an offer can double, triple, quadruple your conversion rates. So yeah, pay your attention and like towards the stuff that really matters.
How many offers do you recommend? Like, do you go to the client and say, hey, I recommend testing 3 different offers, like maybe one an ebook, one a consultation, and one like these, and like maybe another ebook or like something else? Like, how do you go about saying, hey, like I want to test these 3 offers, and like how do you go about that usually?
Well, it's a good question. Basically, we keep testing until we find an offer that performs well, because I like to tell clients, start out with 2 offers to begin with, and we'll test and find out whichever one's the best one. Because once you find something that's working, that offer will continue to work for usually about a month and a half, sometimes more. But yeah, people spend so little time on LinkedIn that you're not inundating them. They're not getting saturated by your offers too quickly. So if you're switching out a new offer every 60, 75 days, chances are your performance is going to stay pretty high. But if both of your offers are pigs and you can't put enough lipstick on them to make them look pretty, you got to keep testing until you find something that actually is attractive.
How often do you usually, is it usually about 5 offers? Then you usually hit it? Like, is it 10? Like, how much testing are we talking about till you find that good offer usually?
I mean, the average offer on LinkedIn is going to convert at like 12 to 15%. And it's not too difficult to create something that is going to convert at that rate. The ones that we really get excited about are when they're converting at 25, 35, 45%. And those are rare. Like, having a marketing team who is smart enough to perceive the challenges of their audience and solve them in a really meaningful way. It's pretty rare, but usually I would say if a client creates 2 or 3 offers, chances are 1 or 2 of them are going to perform well enough to work with.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. So wait, you said what, 3 or 4? Is that what you said? The offers? About 3 or 4?
Like, if the client gives us 3 offers, chances are 2 of them are going to do okay. 1 or 2. One's probably going to be the lowest performer, and that's great. We need to see a lower performer so we know where to funnel our spend to.
What type of offer is it usually? Is it an ebook, or is it like what type of offers do you usually provide that usually see work the best?
Yeah, usually gated content of some kind.
Okay.
You gate an ebook or a webinar or a 3-day summit, anything like that. Anything where you're providing a lot of value in exchange for a form fill tends to work as long as you are giving a lot of value.
So when it comes to the webinars, signing on, like, would you recommend people going to an external link and then filling out the form there? Do you recommend lead gen forms and then signing them up through that way? Or maybe like doing the LinkedIn promote event promotion, kind of what we talked about before. What would you recommend there?
Okay, so I would definitely not recommend using a LinkedIn event for a webinar, just because they don't perform the event post. The event ad doesn't perform as well as single image ad. So you basically take all the same stuff that you would have put in the event, just put it in a single image ad, and it's probably going to do better. But the choice then between using LinkedIn's embedded forms, the lead gen form ads, or sending them to a landing page, it's really nuanced. What we find is if you use LinkedIn's lead gen forms, really similar to Facebook, they have insane conversion rates that are oftentimes 2 to 5 times higher than sending to a landing page. But because we made it so easy for the prospect to sign up, because LinkedIn's going to pre-fill as much of those fields as it knows about someone, all they have to do is hit submit. It doesn't show that same level of intent. So you might find that you get a lower cost per registrant, but your cost per attendee is actually kind of high because so few people attended. Or you send them to your landing page where you're branding and you're getting a chance to show all of your social proof and like making a really strong impression on them. And there's been enough friction to make them ask themselves, do I really want to join this webinar? Okay, I do. And then you might pay more per registrant, but less on a per attendee basis. So it's hard. You really have to test both.
Interesting. So you would recommend that like the actual LinkedIn event, like when it comes to a webinar and promoting that event type where people can just click the interested button, because people are notified of that via email when they type in like interested, that one tap acceptance. So you're saying that usually promoting that post and getting more engagement that way would not be the best way to get more people on your LinkedIn event?
Yeah, just because that particular ad format is usually much more expensive and much lower engagement than a single image ad. But doesn't mean it's going to be that way for everyone. It might end up being really good. It's just if someone clicks interested on an event, I'm pretty sure you can't get like the personal identities of those people, can you?
Yeah, you can. You actually get the attendees. I don't know if I don't know the difference between an interested and attendee. But I'm pretty sure once they type in interested, I'm pretty sure you're able to see and see the list. You can see the list of attendees. I know that for sure. I don't know if you can see the list of interested in there, but yeah, I believe you can.
Cool. Well, I mean, for most of our clients, what they care about is having names in their database in their CRM. Mm-hmm. And in order to take them from a LinkedIn event, you'd have to scrape. You'd have to.
True.
Let's say we do get a list of everyone who's interested. You'd have to either scrape or somehow go in and click on every one of them and like add them to a list somewhere, and you don't have their email addresses. So I think that's the big thing is test, like, is it better for us to push the event and we're essentially renting space on LinkedIn to reach these people? Or is it better to get them either through lead gen forms or through our external landing pages where we can capture their emails and own them for the rest of our life? It's rent versus own. You got to figure out which one's better in your case.
I like that. The rent versus own. I like that. That's interesting. Yeah. It could be different. Well, unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. I know AJ and I could go on for 20 more hours about like all the different formats and LinkedIn stuff. But AJ, please tell the audience how to find you, like where they can find your social media profiles and how they can follow you.
Okay, I'm pretty easy to find. If you go into LinkedIn and search for AJ Wilcox, I'm really easy to find. If you send a connection request to me, customized saying you heard me on Victor's show, then I'll always make sure to accept it. I'm a little choosy about accepting stuff that could become spam, but if you mention Victor's name, we're good.
Okay.
Otherwise, our company is perfect. Our company name is B2 Linked. So it's the letter B, the number 2, and the word linked.com. So if you come to that website, fill out the form on any of those pages if you want to check out what it's potentially like working with us.
That's amazing. Yes. Well, AJ, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. This is the Marketing Perspective Podcast. AJ was here. He did awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.